Oh, hey, I found zhongli. Also, I'm doing the follow-up quest. I just realized to the bottle thingy. Turns out this guy's going to Sumeru now, and now we're gonna learn how to cook. Cool. My bad. Mushroom skewer. What a sweet flowers. Hello, zhongli. And goba.
The vegetables are fresh, and there are enough wheats and grains stocked up. I'll pass on the seafood. Oh, it's you. We meet again. Surprised to see me here?
Maybe?
It's the director's orders.
Yeah.
Xiangling worked all day and night at the restaurant during the festival and didn't get to have any time to enjoy the festivities. The director sent me here to help out in the kitchen so that Xiangling will have some time to herself. But with someone as hardworking as you around, there seems to be nothing much for me to do.
Oh my god, he talks.
It feels good seeing my old friend in the kitchen, fetching ingredients and lighting fires.
The two stove gods.
Perhaps I should borrow Cloud Retainer's Supreme Cuisine machine to speed things up.
They're far away, you know.
You'd still prefer to make them by hand. But of course.
I'm pretty sure talking to Goba will result in the same thing. Yeah, sorry you guys got to miss most of it. My bad. Special event. Oh god, there's a web event.
Effects are completely messed up in this
Iridescent
remaster.
papers.
Either they're much lower quality than the original version, or the pitch is completely off. This is one of those points that's difficult to explain, so let me just show you some comparisons. See what I mean? It just sounds off, and I'm not sure what caused this. Even if the sounds were as good as the PSP version, it sucks that they didn't take the time to update them to the higher quality fest sounds. A PSP UMD can only hold about 1.8 gigs max, so for P3P to fit on the thing, the voice acting and music needed to take a hit. I get that this is more so a complaint towards the original version of the game than the remaster, but I still think that this is a huge missed opportunity. And honestly, that's the best way to summarize this remaster. But hey, at least it's only $20.
The web events don't work too well.
But hey, at least it's only $20. Throughout my playtime with this remaster, I just couldn't shake the thought that I wish Atlas ported the PS2 version instead. I'm not some diehard.
Alright, let me just close Genshin real quick.
I think that Fest is just a better way to experience the game. Plus, it probably would have cleaned up way nicer too. At the time of this recording, Atlas hasn't given an official statement as to why they chose this version of the game specifically. A lot of people have their own theories why, but if you were to ask me, it all comes down to marketing and lifetime sales. back in 2020, Persona Central put out a chart cataloging the lifetime sales of each mainline entry in the series. And when looking exclusively at the Persona 3 charts, Portable beat out the other two by a pretty substantial margin. Granted, this was just for Japanese audiences and only factored in physical units pushed, but since Japan is like...
Probably because the PSP was basically something everyone had, along with the Game Boy.
That's the version that picked the remaster. My other theory is less founded on actual evidence and more so general marketing. On paper, Persona 3 Portable looks to have more content than FES. Sure, the PS2 game has the answer, which is a bonus epilogue chapter, but Portable has the advantage of being able to market the protagonists, regardless of whether or not you like these editions. Portable having two full-length campaigns sounds very enticing on paper. Keep in mind that this is all just speculation on mine, but I find this to be a lot more plausible than some of the theories I've seen online. Some people genuinely believe that because Portable got the remaster, that this basically confirms that a full Persona 3 remake is in the works. Which to me comes off as cope. When you think about it, doesn't the fact that this remaster exists at all kind of go against the remake idea? Why would they bother to remake a game
God.
just ported? Doesn't come off as a smart business move if you ask me. Then again, porting the inferior handheld game instead of the main console game is also a bad move, so what do I do? I've had a lot of people ask me in the past why I'm so hard on the quality of these remasters. Believe it or not, I've even received a few comments saying that my expectations for these things are too high. The answer is honestly pretty simple.
How'd you cut something as fancy as this?
If I feel like playing Persona 3, then I have multiple methods of doing so, whether that be on the PS2, PS3, PSP, or through emulation on PC. Because of this, I feel as though these remasters of old games have a lot more work. If you want me to buy a game that I already own, then I think more needs to be done to justify it. These ports and remasters are getting there. Adding custom difficulty to Persona 3? Good idea. Adding manual skill select to Nocturne HD? Awesome. But the thing is, with every small step forward taken with these releases, they take a massive step back pretty much everywhere else. I guess it's good that the game is now available on modern platforms, but is that really something to congratulate them on? Oh man, look at those achievements and Steam trading cards that didn't drop for a few days after launch. At least I can buy a PNG to slap on my profile. With the nicest thing I have to say about the Persona 3 Portable Remaster is that it's only $20, and I don't think it bodes all too well. The most disappointing part about this situation is that there are plenty of people whose first experience with Persona 3 is going to be with this remaster. Look, if you're someone who's...
At least I already did all my stuff.
I'm glad that more people are willing to give Persona 3 a shot now. It's just that I wish the most accessible version of the game was also the best way to play it. As it stands now, I honestly think you're better off playing FES, or even the original PSP version if you want to play Portable. I guess if you're looking to officially own the game and aren't wanting to spend $200+ on a physical copy, then it's fine. It works. But Persona 3 absolutely deserves a lot better than what it got, and I can in good faith recommend this one. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Anyway, everyone, thanks for watching. I'd like to give a special shout out to all of my channel supporters whose names are on screen now. It's because of these lovely people that I built their videos in the case I do them. These videos took a while to make, so if you're out all those who help me out with donating, you can do so through my Patreon or channel memberships. A few things I can offer you video access and special discount.
TTRPGs, some games were designed with a very specific genre, and the system feels built for that setting. D&D's mechanics are built around armor, magic, items, all that. Vampire the Masquerade is built around intrigue, hidden society, and drinking blood. Cyberpunk is built around depots and news and cards. But if you like to play in a variety of genres, that can mean you're going to be learning a lot of new systems, which can be overwhelming. So what about genre-less systems built so that you can utilize them in almost any setting, like the Cypher system? The problem is, Cypher doesn't feel very customize into a lot of settings, even with the few optional rules you can implement to help tailor it to your game. Those only pretty heavily toward combat when you want to use games that might focus more on intrigue. Fate is genreless and has so few
gosh
rules
darn
you
it.
can use extras to make it feel appropriate for the setting, but there is very little crunch, and the system can be a little too loosey-goosey for some people. Now, I love Fate and Cypher, and even with what I'm about to talk about, I'll still probably run games in both of these systems. But I've learned about a new system, a genreless system that has a decently crunchy foundation and a ton of pre-built modular rules that are both well-defined and fluid enough to adjust to your style of play. I'm talking about what might be my new favorite system, Cortex Prime. Cortex Prime is almost more of a tool set than a defined system, almost, as its dozens of modular rules and traits allow you to pretty much build a Cortex Prime system for your specific game. Is your game focused on combat and magic? Easy. Is your game a murder mystery with literally no combat? No problem. Are you doing a high school prom one-shot focused on personal values and superpowers? Done! There's so many possible combinations and so much freedom within those combinations that I have yet to think up a TTRPG setting I couldn't run with it. And all of those possibilities make the book kind of hard to figure out. The book makes for a great piece of reference material, especially the online handbook, if you need to check on a rule. But if you're trying to learn the system just by reading through it, well, it took me reading the book, watching an actual play session, reading the book again while taking notes, and talking it through with friends before I got a firm grasp on it. I've talked to
Ad
other
Astra.
people that were turned off enough by that.
Thank you for completing.
Gave up on the system, which is a shame because turns
Ad
out
Astra.
it's a great system. I think folks just need someone in the know to explain it to them, and thankfully, I think I know a guy. It's me. I'm the guy. Let's learn Cortex
Okay.
Prime! First, let's talk about how Cortex uses dice.
I thought there would be like a
Literally
cameo
every other
appearance
system
for
I've
some
known how to
reason.
play on, you actually get to use your whole dice set.
Even the D12?
Look, I don't know how to say this, but D20, we won't be needing you.
What?
I'm sorry.
No!
The rest of you, ideally, will need a good number of each of you, so dice collectors, rejoice. In Cortex, when you're doing something with a chance of failure, you're typically
That's like the most important dice!
3 dice. We'll talk about where they come from. From those 3 or more dice, you will choose 2 dice as your total, and 1 die as your effect die. The total is the number you will use to beat the difficulty of whatever is opposing your action, be it the roll of an opponent or just the base difficulty of the action. So, higher numbers, better. The effect die is how effective your action was, but here's the fun part. It doesn't matter what you roll on your effect die. Only the size of the die matters. So, if you were choosing your effect die and you were choosing between a D6 that came up 6 and a D10 that came up 2, even though the D6 rolled a higher number, the D10 is the die you would want to choose because it is the bigger die and will result in a D10 effect.
Alright, I've decided that I don't like Yai.
Here's how all this might play out. For simplicity's
With Emblem
sake, let's say you're trying
anymore.
to tie someone up and you rolled 2 d10s and 1 d6. You came up with the d10s at 8 and 7, and the d6 came up at 3. Now, in this situation, let's say that your opponent's roll to resist is going to be 3d8s, and they have to choose 2 dice for a total and an effect die, same as you. You can absolutely take your 8 and 7 for the total, and since your opponent's highest possible total is 16,
I will probably go back to farming for Emblem, but for now,
your effect die will only be a
I want to
D6.
try
So
Elemental
it would be
Mastery
D6 tied up. Don't worry, I'll explain it in a moment.
and Thundering Fury
But
for her.
you could take that D10 that came up as a 7 and choose that as your effect die. And if you win, they end up being D10 tied up. But that means they only have to beat a total of 11 instead of 15. So their chance of beating your total
I'll keep those
and
locked just in
avoiding being
case.
tied up altogether is a lot better. This method of dice rolling gives you
For now,
options.
Yai
It also
shall
means that method
be
of
naked.
adding more dice to the roll isn't just adding to a total, creating a system of growing unrealistic numbers, because you're still only ever choosing 2 dice for the total and 1 for the effect. In this choosing of totals and effects, the total half is pretty straightforward. Get a number that beats a difficulty or opponent roll. But the effect die is a little less apparent.
I
so
want
let's talk.
Nahida Dendro
There's
Traveler
a
to be
reason
stronger.
that it is only the size of the die and not the number rolled that matters. In that
They're
last
very
example,
important.
when we rolled to tie up
So
our
that's
opponent,
partly why.
that D10 tied up thing
I don't
is
need the
called
emblem anymore now that I've decided to just give them
If
to
a
Beidou,
complication has something
who was
that
like the only
represents
person
damage,
who was
negative status
benefiting from
condition,
this.
or some mix of the two. You will describe the complication in a way that makes sense.
I'll be getting Thunder and Fury with any artifacts I don't like, and that can be for Fischl and Yai, who's also using Gilded Dreams already anyway. One farming Gilded Dreams for
I
anyway,
created
but
another universe and found.
We tied our opponent up and gave them the tied up complication. That complication is a D10 because that was our effect. What this means for the opponent is that anytime someone is rolling against them, that someone can add that D10 complication to their roll if it makes sense that the complication would benefit them. For instance, if this tied up person attempted to attack someone after getting that D10 tied up complication, the person being attacked by them could add that D10 to their defense roll, because being tied up would clearly hinder the attacker. If you lose a contest and already have the kind of complication you would suffer, that complication will step up by 1 die if the winner's effect die is equal or lower to the complication you already have. And if the effect die is higher than your complication, that becomes the new level of the complication. If you have a complication,
You are not welcome here.
No turning back! Enhanced animal. Quiver! Speed of light. Cut to the chase. Stay clear.
Never testing my patience.
Flash! Animal tech 6308. Incoming. Quiver! Nowhere to hide. Doesn't hurt. Strike! Don't blink.
By determining the size of an asset, which
You're glad. You're up.
complication you made for yourself
Quiver!
you get to use.
Absorption test.
Assets can vary a lot depending on what odd using, but it could
Incoming. Hey!
be an item that you use on a future roll. The last few things we'll touch on with the basics of
I guess that was
rolling
pretty
are
fast.
the real good rolls and the bad ones. If your total is 5 or more above the opposing total, that is a heroic success. This could just mean you succeeded with style, but it can also step up your effect die by 1 die size per 5 above. Or you might have special abilities called special effects that are activated by heroic successes. More on those later. On the opposite end, there are hitches. In a roll, any dice that come up as a 1 are called a hitch. The unfortunate thing about a hitch in a dice roll is that you cannot use those dice as a total or as an effect die. They are, for all intents and purposes, removed from your roll. Now, if this brings your roll below 3 dice,
is it time for
then
me to join
your
you?
effect die defaults to a D4, so don't worry, you don't just lose that. If all your
Can't
dice
sleep.
are a hitch, that is
Let's go for a
and
walk,
it means
then.
you just did
Who's our
the
target
worst.
this time?
However, what's worse is that the GM can choose to activate a hitch.
Wish me luck.
Give you a D6 complication befitting the action done. Or they can step up an existing complication you have by 1 die size if it makes sense in that context. You might still succeed at the roll, But if you had a hitch that is activated, you've succeeded at a cost. If your roll has 2 hitches, the GM can activate it to give you a D8 complication or even 2 D6
Okay, teka.
complications. 3 hitches? You get the idea. Thankfully, to activate a hitch, the GM has to pay you, and the currency of the game is plot points. Players can spend plot points for a wide variety.
You are not welcome here.
Gotcha. Here comes the catch. Don't be scared. Not now. Let the show begin.
Allows you to step down your complications.
Higher, pants on fire.
You can spend plot points to create temporary assets that you can use for a scene. You can double the number of dice you get from a trait. Bring those next, don't worry. Or include more results in your total. Or keep an extra effect die. If you're going to be taken out of a fight or contest, spend a plot point to stay in. They do a lot. Of course, the GM also has plot points they can spend to stay in the fight, activate abilities, and keep more results in a roll. But that's about all the GM gets to do with them. Okay, so we have an idea of how rolling and whatnot works in Cortex Prime, but where the heck do all these dice come from? Klaus, show me the character sheet! I can't! Didn't you listen before? Modular rules! There is no set character sheet. However, there is no blueprint to follow.
My guiding star. Let's dance.
Creating a character
See?
sense of the traits
Oh, mine to command.
always have a minimum
Quietly now.
trait, and one of those traits that
No.
will pretty much always be distinction.
I'm getting
The character has 3 distinct traits, each of which is rated distinction describes the character's personality, whatever makes
The night is cold.
In a fantasy game,
Busted.
you have distinctions like
Let the show begin.
cheesecake elements, or flame. And in a murder mystery, you might have Duke of Worcestershire, notations, and strange duelist. There might be specific ones to choose from in a game, or they might be completely up to the players to come up with. But they should make your character unique. Sound familiar? Now, the other 2 trait sets you choose depend entirely on your game, and along with distinctions, these 3 trait sets are going to be referred to as your prime sets. Attributes and skills are the most common prime sets, but they certainly don't have to be. In a game all about societal intrigue, relationships, and affiliations might be your prime sets. In your game, the prime set could be just about any trait set here, but whatever one
You are not welcome.
Gotcha.
essential
Game's up. Fun's over. Stars, shine for me.
This is
Let's dance. Time to go.
always have at least 3 dice. You'll always choose 1 die from each prime set. So, if you're creating a fantasy game with plenty of combat, it might not make sense to have relationships be a prime set because you wouldn't always be rolling it. But it might make sense if your game is based on something like Steven Universe, where relationships are integral. The only trait that would almost never be a prime set is powers, as players will only ever have specific ones that are situational enough they can almost never come up every roll. Each trait set serves a different purpose. Attributes and
You
skills
are not welcome.
Busted.
and will be familiar with attributes.
Let's end this now.
That's against the rules. The night is cold. I'll protect us. See? Oh, mine to commit.
Quietly now. Things are about to get dicey.
Not now.
Gotcha.
Because in a game like any reason not to roll the vast majority of skill checks, because even if you're unskilled, it isn't that big of a deal, right? In Cortex, if you have a skill
My
that
guiding stars!
just willy-nilly has a 25% chance to net you a hitch, which isn't a drastic punishment, but it gives a little more weight to having higher skill in something. Sorry, that was a tangent. So we know we have 3 prime sets, one of which should be distinctions, and the other 2 should be essential to your game. But maybe you want more. Attributes and skills are perfect for your game, but does it also have powers? Or maybe values will be important enough to have around. Beyond the prime sets, you can add whatever trait sets make sense, allowing you to tailor-make a character sheet that perfectly represents the setting you have in mind. What's more, these traits are not strictly defined. If you include attributes in your game, there isn't a set list of attributes. There are suggested lists, sure, but it's up to you. It could be the classic 6 from D&D, it could be just 3 to keep things simple, or maybe you have 9. Using skills? Well, if in the computer hacking Mega Man BattleNet campaign you're running, you know your players will never encounter physical challenges, probably doesn't make sense to have physical skills. Powers come closest to having a set list of traits, but even how they're utilized has options. If all this sounds like a lot of work for the GM and possibly players helping to come up with a setting, it can be. It might take a while to figure out exactly which traits you want in a set and which sets you want, and as we will cover here in a bit, which modular rules you want to further customize your system with. You might be thinking, well, if I have to come up with so much, why don't I just make up my own game? Because Cortex is giving you the framework. You might have to come up with your own specific traits, but it's telling you how to do so within each trait set and how to assign them value and utilize them. So, let's say you figured out your trait sets. Each set has guidelines for how to give traits values at character creation, and that'll be half of character creation right there. Once you've figured out which traits you're using, that part of character creation is a piece of cake. Now we just have to add a few more unique things. First, a character will get 5 special effects. These are special ways your character can influence the game.
Work for now.
By default, 3 of your special effects are hindered versions of your distinction, where you roll your distinction as a D4 instead of the standard D8, giving you
Anyway,
a much greater
stuff's
chance of a
happening
hit,
right now,
but
so
you gain 1 plot point for doing so.
Navigating the
To
world
always
is a
roll your
whole lot
distinction,
easier
be
with
it
a
for
few different
now.
identities
Always
to
a
choose
prime
from.
set. You can think of this as one of your character's distinctions that would be unhelpful and get in their way during a